Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Vocation Mode. We're going to pull back the curtain a little bit on what it's actually like to work with a recruiting agency, especially if you've never done it before. Maybe you're a nonprofit board chair or an ED or someone that's just heard about recruiters and you've wondered, why would I ever need one? Or, maybe you're a candidate and you're curious, what goes on behind the scenes and why maybe you've been ghosted by so many recruiters in the past. So, Troy. Hello, you're one of those.
I am one of those. Yeah, it's great to be here with you again today, Megan.
Why would we want to use a recruiter?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because lots of people do ask that question. People are, and especially I think smaller not-for-profits, mid-sized not-for-profits often have not had the opportunity to use a recruiter before. And so for them, as they kind of think about it, they're like, why would I need one? Like what's the purpose? What's the help? It seems overpriced, but I just think a recruiter can bring so much value to an organization that's actually on the search. And we talk about it all the time. I just feel like in today's climate, as we're kind of heading into this next season, and in a couple episodes, we're going to have some AI experts on talking about that. But I just think hiring is more important than ever. And so to have the right people around you supporting you during a critical hire becomes, I think, so important for every organization. But many not-for-profits, as you know, they kind of try to do hiring on their own, off the side of the desk. They throw something on Indeed, and they kind of hope that the right person will come through the door. They kind of scramble through interviews. And lots of times, we've talked about in the past too, not-for-profits are just so focused on the work that they're doing, and it's great work, that they don't really carve out the time or even have the time to give focus to things like hiring as they should. And so what a recruiter actually brings to the process is they bring reach, they bring a talent pool, they bring process, they bring a third party who can kind of bring in discernment along the way, and they can connect you with leaders that you may never ever find on your own. Not leaders just who might see it and be looking, but leaders who are ready for that next step in their career, leaders who have a calling to a specific kind of area. A recruiter can help connect you with those people that you might not otherwise find. So really, in a nutshell, it kind of expands the pool and gives you kind of process and support as you're entering into that search.
Awesome. Yeah, I think recruiters can kind of be matchmakers too, like you're going to have a pool of people that maybe you've courted in the past that didn't quite work out, but you can hook them up with your new best friend.
So
yeah.
It's so true. Well, because, we've talked about it in other places, we'll probably mention it again, but that often when we go through a search, and even as you kind of pare down and you get down to kind of your final 4 or 5 candidates that you're presenting to an organization, only one of those candidates gets chosen, and there's 4 who don't. And those are 4 candidates that have been vetted and that are skilled and that they're competent and they're passionate about the work. And so as a recruiter, you're always connecting with and building a larger and larger pool of really talented people who feel called to the work within the not-for-profit sector. So you can actually kind of, like you say, bring this best friend who maybe wasn't the right fit for the last role, but you already know what they bring to the table. And so you can quickly connect them within that different organization, and they might be the perfect fit for them.
Has this ever been a reality show? This is given like Bachelor vibes. We should, maybe that's our spin-off.
Exactly what you're saying.
10 candidates, yes. Only 1 position. But then,
exactly. But then
you're on the next season.
Exactly right.
There is always Vocare Union universe.
It's right. Well, I think there always is a next season too, and I think it's important to remember that too, right? It can be really disheartening when you are the candidate and you're really passionate about a role and you don't end up being the individual who gets that role. That's a great reminder that there is always another season. And more out there, especially with 86,000 charities across Canada, there's just plenty of opportunities. It's about having the right people in your network who can then connect you with those opportunities as they arise. And again, that's, I guess, how recruiters and a recruitment agency can really serve candidates well as organizations too.
Yeah, you can't we've talked about this before, but you can't really understate the importance of networking in this industry. And if you're new to a certain area or even new to nonprofits or you're out of, college or something, people tend to stumble into these roles often just by proximity to someone they know or to the organization. It's not very often that people are actively training for these roles or getting the networking right out of school or anything like that. So you kind of are a little bit of a cheat code, right? You are the network that's bringing those candidates, into the fold.
100%. I think something else I do want to mention too when it comes to like why use a recruiter, it does have to do with time, right? Like people's time. I think, especially in not-for-profits, we haven't always valued people's time the way that we should. And so a recruiter can actually help an ED or a board by saving them time as they're in the process trying to kind of bring someone in. It increases objectivity too. And when it's done really well, I think we can also really help protect culture and mission alignment in ways that if you're hurrying off the side of the desk, you can't. I actually just had coffee with an executive director yesterday, and we were talking about this. They're in the midst of restructuring. There's going to be some searches coming down the pipe in the next couple of months, and we were just talking about like using a recruitment agency and would we be a good fit for them and what would that look like? And he just expressed to me how tired he is during the season of kind of restructuring and how his bandwidth just isn't there when he looks ahead into the next 6 months to actually hire well. It's not like he couldn't do it, but he's like, I don't think I'll be able to do it well. And so we're going to continue to have conversations about how Vocare Union can come alongside. But for him, he was trying to do it off the side of his desk. He was kind of planning to do that. But as we've had conversations, but mostly as he's just reflected on the cost of leadership for him right now and how much bandwidth and time he has, he's decided that he's going to need to move in a different direction. And I think that is what a good recruiting agency can do for you. It can save you time, protect the mission, and really bring the right people around the table when it comes to the interview process.
I think that's a really good segue sort of into a good process. So if you're working with a recruitment agency, what should they be doing if they're a good recruitment agency? What are some, sort of green flags, or what are some baseline expectations?
Yeah, and there's lots of great organizations out there that do really, really good work. But at the very least, needs to start with just a really good intake and brief process for you as an organization. You do not want someone who just says, just send us the job description and we're on it. Like you don't want that. You really want an agency that comes in, spends time with your board, spends time with your leadership, and really gets a sense of who you are as an organization, the vision that you're pursuing, the mission that you're on, but also I think really importantly, the culture that you are currently building within the organization, the kind of people that are working there, and the kind of habits and the kind of chemistry that you want to see come in this new hire along the way. So they really need to know who you are, what you're about, and where you're headed. So I think it really starts there. Secondly, I think they have to have a really strong search campaign. So outreach, marketing, a good network, and actually multi-channel, right? Like you and I both know because we met when you were working with a marketing agency that was working with one of my previous employers, but like multi-channel marketing is key, right? It cannot just be like one channel. So you need to be sure that they have a network that they're reaching out to personally, that they have a good plan for how they're going to be working online as well, and then also working on their pool of people that they're already connected with. So great intake, good search campaign. Then certainly you want them to bring a short list to you of pre-vetted individuals. You want them to be able to go through and kind of bring a pre-vetted group of 4 to 5 strong candidates to the table who are ready to go, prepped and ready to be interviewed along the way. And they can provide support too. It depends on the organization, what they like. Some will say we'd like you as a recruiting agency to be in the interviews with us, giving us that kind of third person opinion, being able to have that kind of objective eye. Again, we've talked about it in the past. That often helps reduce some of that kind of bias that tends to happen. Confirmation bias that tends to happen in the room. But regardless, you want to be sure that they're bringing you pre-vetted, ready-to-go people for those interview processes. And I don't think it stops there either. I think a good agency will then help you when it comes to the offer, to negotiation, kind of managing some of those sensitive conversations on both sides. And then I think the best organizations, their work is not done once someone's in the seat, but they're actually there after the placement to be sure that things are moving forward and that the placement is a positive experience for the individual and for the organization as well. That was a lot of talking from me, but that's kind of what I think people need to be looking for.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good overview of, like 5 key points to sort of look for. You mentioned the intake form, and I know you and I were just sort of refragging Vocare Union's intake form and had one of your clients do it, and it took almost an hour. Should Should clients be afraid of that? Is it worth cutting that down? Why so long?
Oh, that's a great question, Megan. And again, we've wrestled with this as an organization as well, because we recognize we're always trying to balance, I think, the importance of the hire, and we're also trying to balance the time that it's going to take the individual and how valuable their time is. As I said earlier, I think that hiring is actually one of the key roles for executive directors and boards in this season. And so, yes, our intake form takes somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour to complete. Yes, it is very, very comprehensive. No, we won't be reducing it down because I think it's so important, at least from our perspective of Vocare Union, I think it's so important as a recruiting agency for us to get a full picture of who's who in the organization, where are you going, the culture of the organization, what kind of an individual you're looking for. We talk about things. We want to understand the compensation structure. We want to understand what's available when it comes to supports, when it comes to health insurance or health savings accounts. We also want to understand, like, how does conflict happen? How do you manage that well? What are expectations around sick days, and how do you manage that? Just team dynamics. We're really just trying to get a really full picture, and not just of all like the good things either, but we also want to kind of dig in and we want to learn the truth. Where is the organization actually at right here today? Where are the friction points? Where are the pain points? Well, what are kind of some of the challenges that this position is going to have to take on as they are hired into the organization? We really want to know the whole story so that we can then tell the truth when we're talking to potential clients, because we actually believe that that will inspire the right people to apply, and it will bring people who are ready to take on those challenges to the table.
And no nasty surprises, right? You don't get into your third interview and then go, oh, no maternity. Okay, bye.
Yeah. No, and again, we don't want to waste the organization's time, and we don't want to waste the candidate's time. And that's a great example. Like if that is like a deal breaker, then we want that on the table early on. We don't want the organization to really be kind of falling in love with a candidate that they absolutely are not going to be able to hire because of what they're able to offer when it comes to either compensation level or benefits.
Awesome. Kind of building upon that, I guess, we've talked about sort of the bare minimum, but what are some green flags or maybe red flags that you might see in a recruitment agency that might make you, pause and not give them 50% of a salary for an employee?
Yeah, I hope it's not 50%. Yeah, I would say pricing wise, if they're asking for 50%, I would just continue to shop if I was you. But yeah, so just some really simple kind of green flags, red flags that you can be looking for. I'll start with like the good news, green flags. I think transparency about fees and pricing. I think that's key. You just want to know upfront, what are the costs going to be? When are they going to be due? Like, what are they fully, so that as an organization, you can budget and then you can make really good decisions along with your CFO and the board about, can we afford this? How's this going to impact the organization? And you can know exactly what it's going to cost moving forward. It's really interesting to me, as I've been doing some research for myself, looking around in different websites. Sometimes it's really difficult to kind of find what is the pricing. The number of recruitment agencies out there have kind of said on their website, transparent fees and pricing, but then there's nothing on the website anywhere, and it's very much like but book a call with us and we'll kind of fill you in on what it is. And I get that some organizations don't want to share that, maybe because of what's going on in the market, but I think you really want an organization that's going to be really open and honest about, like, this is what it's going to cost, this is when it's going to cost this much, and this is what we're going to deliver for what it is that you're paying for. So.
And what sort of is the status quo for how recruitment agencies price? Is it pretty similar across the board, or?
Yeah, as I've been doing some research, right now within the not-for-profit space, most agencies are taking somewhere between kind of 20 to kind of 30% of the person's salary in the first year. And most agencies do either like 50% of that cost at the beginning of the search and then 50% at placement. Some agencies will break it up into thirds. So a third of that cost at the beginning of the search, a third when the person is placed, and then a third when the money-back guarantee period, which can vary between 3 months to 6 months. And what that often means for recruitment agencies, and I think it's important to know this too, is money-back guarantee often means if the candidate does is released at 3 months or before 3 months, then the firm will do a second search for you to replace that individual at no extra cost. But that's not like a refund of your funds. It's just another search at no extra cost. And some firms, their kind of cutoff for that money back guarantee is 3 months, and other firms, their cutoff is at 6 months. And so it's just really important when you're kind of looking at the fine print that you understand what that means and when the fees are gonna be due.
Awesome. And I don't know if you want to get into how Vocare Union prices now, or we can save that for a little bit later.
We'll talk about that a little bit later if that's okay. Yeah.
No, I think that sounds great.
I think some other kind of green flags is just deep listening to your organization and learning your organizational structure, not just the job description. I think if you really want a recruitment agency who wants to get to know you, you don't want to feel rushed. You want to feel like they actually care about you. They're asking really good questions. They're digging in. They're spending time doing like SWOTs to kind of figure out like what's really going well, where is there a weakness, where's an opportunity, where are there threats. You want them to spend time really learning about how do you interact as a team. I think chemistry, and we've talked a lot about it in a past episode, but also even curiosity should be on the radar, where they're really, really curious about you as an organization and really trying to understand deeply who you are and how they can actually bring the right fit in to come and join your team. So I just think someone who just actively listens. I always think you want a recruitment agency that does less talking than you do, right? You want someone who is really present and listening, asking good questions. A favorite phrase of mine is tell me more about that. You want to hear those sorts of things from your recruitment agency because that would indicate that they're really trying to figure out who are you, where are you going, and how can they be a part of helping your organization grow and its impact be maximized in the days ahead.
Do you feel like during that sort of question period, some of those questions should feel a little bit uncomfortable? Is that a green flag as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And then that's actually really good because I think many people would kind of put that in the red flag kind of department, like, oh, they're asking me questions and it kind of makes me feel uncomfortable. I feel like they're digging for dirt on the organization. You shouldn't worry about that with your recruitment agency. A good recruitment agency, I think, will do some digging because they're actually going to want to know. They're going to want to know exactly what the individuals are getting into. They want to be able to represent you fairly and clearly and honestly to the pool of candidates that they actually care about and that they're bringing to the table. And they really do want to get the best fit for you as an organization. I would say it probably would be a red flag if they're not asking any hard questions at all, if they're just happy to kind of hear you tell them all the great things about the organization. And then they're like, awesome, we're going to fill this thing. Then that would be a red flag for me. I think you really do want to feel a little bit uncomfortable as they probe because they want to know.
Awesome. I saw in here there's something that we discussed on an earlier episode around, avoiding that confirmation bias, hiring sort of outside of your normal, I wouldn't say your normal culture, but definitely not hiring little clones of yourself. So some sort of commitment to diversity, would you say that needs to be in there as well?
100%. And I think, it's just, I think, a normal human attribute that we like attracts like, and we tend to attract like people, and we tend to connect with like people. And I think sometimes you really do need to be pushed along by your recruitment agency to consider what would it look like not to hire like, but to actually bring diversity into the conversation and into your team. Because the truth of the matter is, over the years, I spent some time working as a job developer with a wonderful not-for-profit in the town where I live that was just focused about bringing diversity. My job was to go out and find roles and encourage companies to be open to bringing diversity, whether that was ethnic diversity or gender diversity or orientation diversity, like just bringing diversity into disabilities, bringing diversity into your team. Because the truth of the matter is when a team diversifies, it actually gets stronger. When people from different backgrounds with different abilities come into a team, they actually help the team grow and they're a better team. They have better ideas, better conversations. They're more connected to the larger culture in the community. And so I think a green flag would be when a recruiting agency is always kind of pushing for diversity and to really have that diversity come in and be a part of the very core of who you are. And that will actually help you as you kind of move your mission forward in your community. So I just think diversity is key.
I've seen this out in the wild before too, where we've been looking at agencies to help us with job placements or, rebrands or things like that. And we have a couple agencies put forward. And, just because of the background of the organization and the background of the recruiting agency, they decided to go in a very specific direction. And this recruiting agency also happens to hire a lot of people from the same background. And so that just kind of continues this cycle of sort of whitewashing as well. So I know it can be really tempting. We see it a lot in faith-based organizations, for example. You want a recruitment agency that is sort of aligned with your value system, is going to bring in people that are aligned with your value system because they're going to have a good understanding of that value system, of course.
100%.
But that can actually be sort of detrimental as well, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I think there can be diversity within people aligning with your value system.
Absolutely.
As well, right? And I think sometimes we think that those two are kind of binary or opposites, but they're not actually. And I think a good recruitment agency will help you get exposed to candidates who you might not have seen because you're thinking about like, I only want them to kind of look like this in this lane, but they'll help you find people in other lanes who bring lots of talent and lots of energy and lots of skills and competence to the table, but also who embrace your values, but they might be coming from a different stream than you're typically kind of fishing in when you're looking for a candidate. I don't know why I brought in a fishing metaphor, but there it is. Because I do think that that's true. We tend to kind of fish in the same pond over and over again. And I think there's so many different streams out there for us to be able to be introducing people out of where their values and their vision align with the mission. And if their values and vision align with the mission, then they are more than qualified to come and be a part of the work. And they'll actually bring a richness and a new perspective with them that will actually help your vision expand its impact in the community. So,
yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Do I want to get into some red flags?
Sure. Yeah, a couple of red flags. I mean, there's lots of them. We kind of talked back and forth about kind of green flag, red flag earlier. I think a huge red flag would be when a recruitment agency right off the hop kind of just over promises what they're going to be able to do. We'll have this filled in 3 to 4 weeks with the perfect individual, like with the unicorn, someone who's even better than what you're looking for. I think any kind of over promise like that, you need to actually kind of be quite wary of, because the truth of the matter is recruitment, when it's done well, is a process, and the process takes time. It just takes time. I mean, even with Vocare Union, as we are doing a search, there is weeks to prepare, and then there is weeks to search, and then there is weeks to pre-screen, and then there's presentations, and the whole thing can take, up to 12 to 15 weeks to really be done well. So if someone's promising you that they can get this done in 2, 3, 4 weeks, I would be concerned about how deep a process they're going to be entering into, and I would have some real questions for them about what that's going to look like. Plus, if anyone talks about a unicorn, we all know unicorns don't exist. It's just the national animal of Scotland. That's it. And so there are no unicorns. There are no perfect people. There are no perfect fits. And so when people are talking with that kind of language, I think that's a red flag, and you should be concerned.
Yeah, I feel like we've chatted about unicorns a couple times now too. That's going to have to be the Vocare Union mascot, I think. Throw that on the shirt too.
Yeah, no unicorns. Just
with an X.
Just a big X through it too. I think too, secondly, I'd say like a transactional kind of focus where it seems like they are more interested in closing the deal and getting someone in the seat so they can kind of move on to the next search. If you're feeling pressured from a recruiting agency about getting the job done, let's get the person in, I've got this person, they're perfect, let's get them hired so we can get moving. That to me is a red flag as well, right? You want a recruitment agency that sees you as a partner. There needs to be a relationship there between you and the agency, and you want to feel like they are actually for you and listening. And if it seems like this is just all about let's get this done so we can move on to the next search, if there's pressure to kind of not pause and have good conversations, or even if you feel uncomfortable with like, I don't think this is the right fit, I'm going to talk to them about it, and you get a lot of like, oh, no, trust me, they're perfect. Trust me, they're perfect. No. Like if you get that sort of pushback, then that would be a huge red flag. And I think most recruitment agencies are not going to do that, but it would be a red flag if you were experiencing that kind of pressure and pushback where it really felt like this was more about getting the job done than it was about getting the right person in the space to see the organization move forward.
I know we talked about the pricing structure a little bit earlier and how a lot of recruitment agencies aren't going to take that final paycheck until that person's been in the role for a while. So why would they do that? Why would they place somebody too urgently, if they're potentially missing out on some money? Explain it to me.
Yeah, well, I think what can happen is if a recruitment agency is taking on too many searches and they're overrun, then their attention to detail and their time that they can allot to each search gets compressed. And so if they're trying to manage too many searches at one time, I think that can be part of the issue. I also think too, depending upon like how long a window a search company has for kind of final payout, let's say some have like a 3-month window. I don't know about you, but most people who get placed, they can kind of last 3 months. Like it's pretty hard to not last 3 months in a row by the time you get there, figure it out, get onboarded, settle in. I know by employment law we have 90 days in which someone can be released without cause, and that's acceptable. But within 90 days, it's pretty hard not to last 90 days. So I guess potentially, if you can get someone in the seat and they can last 90 days, then you get the rest of your commission, and you move on to the next search. And I guess it just depends really on the ethos of the recruitment agency. Are they focused on getting people in spaces so that the roles can be filled and they can move on and then provide the next person and the next person, next person? Is it speed that they're concerned about? Is it trajectory of the organization? What is it that they're actually focused in on? And so it just really depends on the org. Again, I think it's easy sometimes to feel like, oh, there's something nefarious happening in the background that people, they're just trying to place people so they can make more money. I can't speak to that one way or the other, but certainly I think when there is a sense of let's hurry up and get someone in the seat rather than let's take the time we need to get the right person in the seat, that would be a red flag for me. And I think you'd want to be cautious about that.
True. Okay.
Yeah.
I know something else that we talked about previously was getting ghosted. We see it a lot, I think, on the candidate side, and we've talked about that. Maybe you could speak to whether that is a red flag, because that just seems so commonplace in industry, but also maybe the lack of follow-up with the organization to see how things are going with their placement.
Yeah. And I guess, sadly, you won't see this red flag until you're further down the road with the actual recruitment agency. But I think lack of follow-up after the placement is a huge red flag. If it's just about like, here you go, here's your new person, mwah! We're out. I think that's a real concern. And yes, I do know that candidates often feel kind of ghosted, and not just the ones who are placed, but they may never get connected with again by the organization to see how things are going, but also those who actually don't get the role but who have been shortlisted. Often they just fall off the face of the earth and you never hear from them again until maybe years down the road when there's another opportunity and they might kind of circle back around, but it often gets very, very quiet. But I think organizationally too, I know I've spoken to a number of organizations who've used recruitment agencies and they've commented on the fact that as soon as the person is placed, and you may get a check-in or two, like a quick email of like, how's it going? Everything okay? Within that kind of 3 to 6 month period where they have their money back guarantee. But once you hit that kind of 3 to 6 month kind of trigger and final payment is given, often it's really, really quiet. And so organizations, I think, also can feel like, especially when there's an intensity of relationship up until placement, and then if there's like one follow-up email within 3 to 6 months and then nothing, it can feel like, wow, we had all this kind of connection and there was all this investment, and now it's just all's quiet on the Western Front. Like what's going on? And so I do think that there's room there for many agencies to think about like, how can we continue to nurture that relationship and be sure that things are going well, even in that if our timeline is 3 to 6 months, even that 3 to 6 months, how do we as a recruitment agency, how do we do a little better job of kind of staying connected and following up and making sure that things are going well? And similarly, I would suggest that as an organization too, within that 3 to 6 months, if there are friction points, I would feel really free to reach out to the recruitment agency that helped you with your placement. If they're still on retainer for 3 to 6 months, feel free to kind of reach out if you're not hearing anything and have a conversation. See if what they're able to offer when it comes to working through some of those friction points if necessary.
Awesome. I guess we're getting into the shameless plug section of our pod now. Let's chat a little bit about you and Ben Johnson. You've kind of put together this brainchild that is Vocare Union, and you're doing some really cool things when it comes to recruitment. I mean, I'm biased, in parentheses here, sponsored segment, as this is our podcast, but.
Yes.
Yeah, I know I came on board partially just because it sounded so cool and kind of innovative. So maybe you can sort of chat a little bit about the Vocare Union way and yeah, what makes you different and what's some of the things that you're bringing to the industry.
Yeah. And again, we're trying to just bring the best that we can to the sector, recognizing that, at least from our perspective, we think that there are some ways that we can continue to serve organizations well and make some changes that will hopefully start to change the way some of the recruitment is working, especially within not-for-profits. There's just a few things that make us a little different. And I will confess that this does sound more like a shameless plug now, but I think it's really important. We've talked a lot about what does kind of good process look like within the recruitment agency space, but we really felt like, Ben and I, as we were talking about launching Vocare Union, we felt like there was some opportunities for us to do things a little bit differently. And we hope that this will actually infuse the space with some opportunities for other organizations too, to rethink how it is that we recruit and how do we care for an organization well, but also how do we care for candidates well along the way in a way that is way more relational, way more caring, and more long-term as far as how we actually journey with organizations and folks. And so what makes us a little bit different? Just a couple of things. We're focusing on transformation over transaction. So we're not in it just to kind of fill the seat, but we want leaders to thrive and we want organizations to flourish long-term. And so for us, as we're doing our search, it's not about who fits necessarily in the moment, but who is going to be here and provide some long-term leadership within this organization, particularly when not-for-profits are investing so heavily in communities. And the work that they're doing is so very important. We really want to see transformational hiring happening where organizations don't just get an individual, but they get the right individual who can then actually grow and flourish in that role and actually propel the mission and vision of the organization forward in the community.
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm listening for the first time, I'm going to go, sure. Like a lot of recruitment agencies are going to say they want to get the right person in the role. They want it to last for a long time. So I guess, like, what are some steps that you're taking to sort of guarantee that or sort of put your money where your mouth is?
Yeah, well, I think our process is much more focused on relationship from the very beginning. So we spend a lot of one-on-one time with each and every person who applies. We want to get to know who they are. We want to spend time listening really carefully to their calling. Vocare means calling in Latin. So what are they called to? What do they bring to the table? But also I think it's the work that we're doing pre-work with the organization as well to deeply understand their culture so that we bring the right person in who's going to be a fit. It can be really easy to look and say, okay, this person is really competent and they've even been really successful somewhere else. They're the perfect fit for this role. But what we want to do is we want to be sure that we understand deeply what kind of a culture do they bring, who are they as an individual, what kind of work habits do they bring to the table, how do they interact as a team member, not just kind of what skills do they have. And we believe that when we kind of put that all together, we kind of talk about looking at the head, how they behave, the heart, what do they bring to the work, what's their passion, what's their calling, right? And their hands, how do they actually do the work and interact with the team. We try to look at head, heart, and hands in this process, and we believe that when we run people through head, heart, and hands, we spend some time getting to know them, we have a more full picture of who they are and what they're going to bring to the table, and that helps us place a person who's going to not just fill a role, but who's going to actually build into the team and move the organization forward.
And one thing that you guys do that I don't see, I mean, I don't have a huge wealth of experience with recruitment agencies, just a handful, but I've definitely never seen it before, is this coaching that you offer with the candidate after they're placed for quite a while, right?
Yes, part of our structure is once a candidate is placed, we are committed to journeying with the candidate and with the organization for 2 years. And so there will be quarterly coaching check-ins with the candidate and also with either the search committee chair from the board, or if it's a director that's been hired by an ED, with the ED. There's a quarterly check-in with each individual to just assess how are things going, what are the friction points, are there any gaps in skills or knowledge that needs to be filled, is there any other kind of coaching that needs to be brought around to just help people be successful. We really want to be that third party that can be that can come and join in the journey with the individuals that we placed to really help them grow into the role and to be successful. The truth of the matter is there's always going to be growing pains. There's always going to be friction. There is no perfect organization. There is no perfect hire. And so what we want to do is we want to get the best people in the role, and then we want to kind of journey with them long term, providing them with the support that they need to grow into the role and to really flourish. Because we don't want to just place people. We really want to grow high performing teams that bring long-term impact into the organization. And so, yeah, we're deeply committed to kind of that ongoing journey with the individuals for 2 years. So 8 quarterly check-ins that's all included in the pricing and in the work that we do.
Awesome. And you'll actually find some of those coaching mentors and help make those connections, right? I know you, me, Ben, we've all had a lot of history working with nonprofits, definitely made some connections, whether that's, budgeting or fundraising or whatever. So, I mean, you kind of have a unique network to bring it back to networking.
100%. And again, great point, Megan. We don't have to be experts in everything, though between myself and Ben, we've seen a lot over our, I think, combined almost 45 years in not-for-profits together. But yeah, we don't have to know everything, but we do have connections with people who know everything. And so if there is, for instance, if there's tech issues that need to be addressed, we have a really great connection with a company called Quartermaster that we can invite to come in. If there's fundraising challenges that are happening, we have a great connection with an organization called Generosity X that really focuses on digital fundraising, how to maximize generosity. But we also have relationships with past EDs who are retired, who are looking to kind of mentor and support people who are moving forward. We have experience within the fundraising space, within the resource development space. We have experience within data. We have a coaching company that we also connect with, that if the coaching is kind of more leadership focused, beyond what I might be able to provide, we can connect people with the right fit as well. So it's really not all about us being the conduit of all things. We don't have all the knowledge, but we do have the connections. And what we really want to do is we want to connect the right people with people who are doing work in the space so that, again, they can flourish and they can grow.
Awesome. So you promised we were going to get into this a little bit. Tell us about the pricing structure.
This is where we actually are quite different, and I've not seen anything like this out there. In the market right now. So what we've really tried to do is build a pricing structure that we think it makes it easier for not-for-profits to actually budget to bring a recruitment agency alongside to help. As we talked about, like, why do it? Well, lots of it has to do with time and with energy. And when it's happening off the side of the desk versus it being someone's full focus, it's a very different experience. But what we've often heard from different not-for-profits is just that especially if they're medium-sized or kind of larger, small organizations, they don't have the funds to be able to pay in large chunks up front. And so we've developed a very different pricing model where we take 5% of the individual's salary in the first year, and that it secures the search. We go through the search process, and then once the right person is placed, then we will take 1% of the person's salary monthly over the next 2 years, and that's paid out quarterly. And so every 3 months when there's a payment, there's a quarterly check-in. And what that does is it spreads our fees out over the 2 years, which allows then an organization to budget for it more effectively. There's less outlay of cost out front. The chunks are much smaller. And there's this ongoing kind of journey where as we're being paid, we also continue to invest in the individual and in the organization with coaching and check-ins along the way. And so at the end of the day, our fees finish out over 2 years. And our money-back guarantee basically is if the person is not successful for the 2-year period, if the person is released from the role, they decide to leave, or they're released from the role at the 12-month mark, then our fees stop at that point in time. If they're released at the 3-month mark, our fees stop at that time. If they're released at the 9-month mark, our fees stop at that time. So our money-back guarantee is really much more geared to the individual who's been placed, and their success really is our success. And so we're deeply committed to finding the right person to come into the role, and then we're committed for that long haul journey with them to help them continue to grow and flourish, because really, in order for us to be successful as an organization, they need to be thriving in their position for 2 years.
Yeah, that does sound exceptionally unique. What's your total percentage of salary after that all sort of wraps up?
Yep. So the total 5% up front and then 24% basically over 2 years. So it's 29%. So it's near the top of the range of what you would see within a not-for-profit space, but it does include the quarterly check-ins as well. And so you're actually getting 8 coaching appointments. Well, actually, you're getting 16 because you're getting one with the individual who's been placed and one with the organization as well. So if you add up 16 coaching appointments as well in there and you compare fees, we're very, very competitive with the rest of the market. And we do feel that we're providing some significant benefit when it comes to helping people settle in and actually thrive and grow in the role.
You've been at this for a little while now, still pretty new. How have your candidates sort of been responding to this format or this sort of methodology?
Oh, we've had great feedback from the couple of organizations that we've had the opportunity to work with so far. The feedback has been excellent. They very much appreciated not just the pricing model, but they've appreciated the ongoing journey. And when it comes to candidates, as we've been talking to them about this is what it looks like to work with us, and once you're placed, this is what you can expect from us as we move forward, that's also been incredibly well received. And as far as we know, we're not seeing this model being offered anywhere else in the space. And so it's our hope at the end of the day is that if we can actually help individuals find their place of calling and settle in, and then if we can provide them with the supports that they need to continue to thrive and grow in that role, we actually believe that we can help not-for-profits in general that we serve become healthier, and then we think that they can have greater impact in their communities. And as I said earlier, not-for-profits do such important work in our community that if we can actually help not-for-profits hire the right people, grow and become healthier, then our communities really are changed. And so we really feel like what we're doing isn't just about the individual that we're placing. We actually see what we're doing as being a part of shaping communities for the better moving forward.
And you've talked quite a bit, a lot of big talk about not leaving candidates out to dry after they're not placed. What sort of offerings do you have for them, or how do you sort of keep them in the fold or communicate, and maybe what are some of your plans for the future?
Yeah, and again, we're new, but we feel really strongly about the fact that my co-founder Ben always uses kind of the pointing finger as an example. When you point the finger, this one person represents the person who actually gets the role, but then there's these other 4 people usually who don't get the role. And this is what we hear a lot about recruitment agencies, is that people feel like they are kind of dropped, ghosted, I think is the word you used, hung out to dry afterwards. Because when you think about it, there's those 5 people who've been recruited and shortlisted. The recruitment agency has spent time with them, they've gotten to know them, they've dug into kind of who they are and what they're about. Those folks, the people who've applied, they've been vulnerable, they've shared their story, their vocational story with them, they've talked about their hopes and their dreams. They've really shared their lives with the recruitment agency and with the organization that they've been interviewing with. And then 4 out of the 5 don't get the role. And there's been this relationship. And then all of a sudden it's like silence. It really can feel like you're just a commodity, right? It's the commodification of the individual. You're just a commodity that we're looking to sell, and we've told you how amazing you are and that you're a great fit, and we believe you could be the right one, and then, oh, no, it's somebody else, and then click, nothing. I mean, it's absolutely, I think it can be really disheartening for an individual, because then it causes all kinds of questions. We're like, well, did they really think I was a good fit, and was I a good fit, and what did I miss? I even know like a number of people will ask for feedback around like, well, why didn't I get the role? And sometimes that's left to organizations, and they don't always do a great job of getting back. And other times, recruitment agencies just kind of move on to the next thing. And you really don't hear from them again until maybe you might be another good fit, and they'll come back around. Our desire really is to walk with everybody in the process. And this is going to be challenging. I get this. We were challenged on this by an individual who owns another company, a consulting company in the space, who said, this sounds great. Let's see how it goes. Because we recognize that it's going to take people hours, and it's going to take time and energy. But our commitment is to follow up with every single individual that we've worked with to do kind of a bit of an exit interview. Like, they're not exiting, but like, you didn't get the role. We want to talk really clearly about any feedback that we can provide from the organization that's going to help that person grow. But then also, we're committed to having regular follow-up. So quarterly, I'll be looking to check in with everybody that has been kind of through that search once a quarter getting in touch again, checking back in, seeing how they're doing, seeing how the job search is going, bringing them up to speed with any other searches that we might have that we think would be a good fit, working to find ways to kind of create the union in Vocare Union, to have a community of people who, even if you didn't get this job, you're connected with a group of people that we care about, and we want to keep those relationships growing. And so we're looking to create spaces where people can connect online, and they can stay connected after being through searches, successful or non-successful. We're looking at ways to kind of gather people together who've been part of the Vocare Union world, or metaverse as we'll call it, to keep them connected as well, to kind of share stories, to share insights, and also to kind of grow as people who are working in the space. So we really do have big plans for how we can kind of continue to keep people connected and growing, even if they aren't successful in that first search. But our desire really is to stay in relationship with the people that have been a part of the searches with us, even if they don't get the role, because we're convinced that maybe you didn't get this role, but you might be the perfect fit for the next role. And we've also mentioned this before. I know I'm covering some similar ground, but I just think it's worth reiterating too. As an organization, if you can at least do some really general follow-up afterwards, even if it's just like a thank you email expressing your thanks to the individual for the fact that they applied and how much you've appreciated them or whatnot, keeping those doors open with people who didn't get the job that you were advertising now, I think is key, particularly if they were shortlisted and they really did have many of the qualities you were looking for in the role, because chances are you will be hiring again and they already are a good fit for the culture of the organization because of the work that we've done. Because that way we can really help organizations connect with people who they already know align with their values and their mission and the culture that they're creating in their space.
I think a lot of what you're saying is sort of giving me like therapy vibes, and maybe that's the pastor in you coming out, but it's like I feel very supported, and at the same time I'm sort of getting these flashbacks of telling my story to a different person, trying to find the right fit over and over and over again, and getting to like your third therapist and just being like, I've told this story 18 times, like I'll just give you the Cliff's Notes, and then you kind of like miss out on the opportunity to dig and uncover some things, because you've just you've already done the spiel so many times, you've been in so many job interviews that you just sort of like, now it's just surface level rehearsed sort of spiels, right? So I think keeping them into the fold sort of allows you to gain this more holistic and deepening view of this person. And I think over time, as you keep sort of interacting, you're kind of gonna gain friends, right? And you're gonna have a really good understanding of where they might fit.
100%, and again, early days for us, but we've had just the real privilege of having, we call them Vocare conversations, just the privilege of having conversations with a number of different people across the not-for-profit space who either are looking now or they're not looking, but they've been in the space, they have lots of wisdom to share. And so I've just had the opportunity to sit and talk and get to know them and hear their story and learn about what really drives them in their work and what fuels their passion and what gets them excited. And as I've been building those relationships, it's just been such a joy for me to kind of hear those stories. But then I also get to know these individuals so that I can be like, oh, wait a minute, I think this might be a great fit for them. Maybe now is the time. I can at least reach out. And it's not me reaching out cold to someone, right? It's not like we've all got those, like the LinkedIn post, like, hey, I work for so-and-so. We think you'd be great for this role. And we're like, who are you? What is this about? But it's an opportunity to reach out in person and say, hey, Helen, it's Troy. I know we chatted a lot over the last year about like your passion for this, and that one day you thought this might be a great fit. This opportunity's come up, and I'm wondering if you'd be open to having a conversation about it. That's a whole other deal. I've had one individual actually that I've been in conversation with since last March. She continues to look for work. She's closing in. It's been a long journey, and actually I really do hope to have her on the podcast at some point, because her experience of searching right now has been she's searching on her own as a candidate. I haven't had anything to offer that would be suitable for her. But I've also just continued to check in every couple months. I give her a call. We'll do a quick Google chat for sometimes 15, 20 minutes just to kind of see how things are going. I listen to the journey. She asks me if I have any kind of advice. But sometimes people just need someone to kind of listen while they're in the midst of what you talked about, that really challenging space of trying to find the right role, sharing your life over and over again, getting so far down the road, and then it's a no for whatever reason, or even sadly looking at an opportunity that you think you would be a great fit for, but unfortunately you get weeded out even before you even get a chance to have a conversation, because they're running it through a filter that automatically selects you out, and they never get a chance to actually get to know you because you only have 5 years experience instead of 7 or something crazy like that. So those kinds of relationships are already building within kind of Vocare Union, and I've really enjoyed those, and it connects me with individuals who are on the move, and that I'll get the opportunity, I know, to keep building relationships with long after they find a role, so that I can kind of continue to celebrate and support them along the way.
I think, yeah, that personal connection is important as we move more and more towards efficiency and AI. And I think people are going to be looking for that, right? So long term, I think that's going to serve Vocare Union quite well, is nurturing these connections. And, not that you're doing it for the sake of having advocates down the line, but you're going to have advocates down the line, right? Once these people do get placed, and they sound like amazing people that will get placed,
absolutely,
you'll be the first ones that they think of. So I think that, if there's other competitors listening and you want free advice, that would be one of the first takeaways is, nurture your network.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, another way I would say it too is over the years, I've just really discovered that relationship is king. It really is. When you genuinely care about people and you build genuine relationships, it changes everything. It opens doors. It builds networks. It builds confidence, and it will really it'll change your business. It'll change your not-for-profit. I just think relationship is foundational, and when you actually focus there, lots of other pieces fall into place.
Amazing. Well, Troy, this is your bread and butter. Was there anything that you think we missed that we should touch on before we wrap up?
No, I would just say that our goal at Vocare Union, at least, it isn't just to help you hire a leader. It's really to help you keep and grow a leader who's going to transform your team and your organization moving forward. So for us, the reason we have this kind of long haul approach is because it's not just about the hire. It really is about how to grow and keep high performing, high impact teams in your organization long term. And we really are looking forward to doing that. And I think it's going to be a great journey, and I can't wait to see all the different people, meet all the different people who get to be placed, and then to watch those organizations continue to thrive, and to know that we played a very small part in helping them be transformative in their communities. To me, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
And if somebody's looking to hire or just wants to have a little Vocare convo with you, what's the best way to get in touch?
Oh, you can go to our website, vocareunion.com, or you can reach out to me directly at troy@vocareunion.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well. I am always up for a chat. Would love to have a conversation. Even if you're just curious about what it means to work with a recruiting agency, or you're curious about what we have to offer, I'd love to be in touch. For me, it's all about the people.
And he's not lying. We've been having these meetings every week, and his calendar's been getting slowly just like more and more full of just these conversations. And if you want to talk about a person that gets energized from engaging with people, I think you're probably top of the list in my network, Troy. So we have a closing segment on this podcast, Vocare Voicemails. If you have questions about the nonprofit sector, about hiring, about being hired, please feel free to drop us a line anywhere that we exist on social media or via email. For now, we're going to do a little bit Vocare Reads Reddit. So this question actually comes from r/nonprofit jobs. This is a subreddit committed to hiring in nonprofits. Very relevant.
Very on brand.
And this comes from Inevitable Cut 3643 on Reddit.
All right.
Question. I'm a rising junior in college, and I'm leaning towards a career in analytics after graduation. I recently secured an internship in development at a nonprofit arts organization. According to the description, I'd be managing their database, cleaning data, compiling research for corporate funding, and presenting that research to the development team at the end of the internship. I'm a bit conflicted on whether I should take the internship, as some people have told me this isn't strong experience for what I want to do, since it isn't purely analytics focused, while others say development work can be very analytical. I have huge respect for careers in the nonprofit sector, but I don't see myself working in it long term. My hope is that this could be my first internship and I could leverage it into something more directly related to corporate analytics next summer while I'm still in college. For those of you who have worked in nonprofit development, would you say it is analytical enough to build relevant skills for data/analytics careers? I'd appreciate any advice and insights. Data in nonprofits. I've worked on the agency side quite a bit. And actually one of our, I don't even know what you would call Chris. Chris has recently come on board, and we've both worked with Chris earlier as a data analyst who has worked very closely with nonprofits. And I think he would agree that the biggest issue with nonprofits a lot of the time is just data hygiene. And so is there work to do? Absolutely. It just depends sort of where your focus is. So you said that you want to do, analytics focused. It can be very analytical. It really depends on the size of the organization, the maturity of the organization, and how long they've had that data for, how long they've been building it for, and how hygienic they've been with their data practices, right? So that's my 2 cents. But Troy, you actually worked at a nonprofit. What's your experience?
I would say from somebody who was a director of resource development, realizing over the years just how critical data is. And I actually think I would suggest that, especially if you don't intend to stay in the not-for-profit world and you are maybe looking to move into corporate, I think having some non-profit experience is actually really helpful. It shows diversity in your experience portfolio. But often what will happen is when you come into a not-for-profit space, because most of the time, people wear different hats. Like a lot of times when you're in a corporate world, it's like this is your lane and you never leave it. Whereas in not-for-profit world, it's like we're all doing different things. Even as an intern, I think you can often get a breadth of experience that you wouldn't get somewhere else. And you often will have opportunities to actually kind of, as Megan said, do some really interesting things and help an organization really understand and discover data that they just haven't had the bandwidth to really dig into. And again, hopefully it's hygienic enough that you can actually do some of that work. And if it is, I think you could actually have an incredible internship where you get a chance to actually bring this presentation to the board and to the resource development team and help them see patterns and help them see opportunities that they might be missing because you're able to take that data and analyze it really, really well. And I think there's something too about people who are drawn to not-for-profits, and it doesn't sound like you're looking to work there forever, but there is something about knowing that what I'm doing is actually having an impact for good. That the outworking of this data work that you're going to do during your internship has the potential to help the resource development team understand how they can do their work more effectively, how they can interact maybe with some donors that they've missed, and how they can then grow income for the organization, which then maximizes the organization's ability to do the good work that they're doing in the community. And so I would say, if I was you, I would say, there is lots of opportunities. You can actually have a significant impact even in a short amount of time. And there's probably going to be some opportunities for you to try some things that you might not get a chance to try at the junior level in a corporate space. So I would say go for it and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of building on what you said, there's a level of autonomy that you get with nonprofits that you don't get in business, right? Because there's just not that network of support or that knowledge necessarily. So they really do lean on people. There's not a lot of capacity among their internal teams. So you have the opportunity to, like you said, sort of make a difference, but really build a good case study for yourself as well. So if you can say, even if you're not going to have a direct impact before you leave, which I'm sure you will, depending on the length of the internship, just follow up with the organization, see what benefits or what the results of your work were, and then build that into a case study. That's going to come up in interviews all the time, right?
No, seriously, that's a great point as far as like from the recruitment side too. Nothing speaks to a potential employer like volunteer and also just not-for-profit experience, right? Like when you are seen as somebody who is giving back to the community and you could have chosen maybe to go in this direction, but instead you said, no, I'm going to actually do my internship here where I know I can make a difference. That's a huge resume builder because companies today are really looking for people who are community-minded, and company brands, like it or not, they want to be seen as actually caring about the community and they want to be involved in the community. We're seeing that more and more. I would say that volunteerism is starting to kind of swing up again when it comes to especially corporate volunteerism within the not-for-profit space. And so for you to already have had some experience there and to bring that to the table when you come to either look for your next internship opportunity or when you're actually looking for to be placed in a role, as Megan said, being able to kind of bring that case study forward and talk about the work that you did and the difference that you made, that's very strong for you when you're coming into that interview space.
Yeah, and bonus advice, if you can figure out if this nonprofit does partner with any corporations, that's who you want to go afterwards, right? So you'll already have that connection. So networking, It all comes down to networking. Thank you for joining us today on Vocation Mode. I think in our next episode in a couple weeks here, we'll be chatting with co-founder Ben Johnson. Might chat a little bit about fractional data, dig into Vocare a little bit more. We'll see how it goes. We'll see where the journey takes us.
It's always interesting when Ben's in the room, so looking forward to it. Megan, as usual, it's been a pleasure, and for those of you who've listened, thanks for joining us. We'll look forward to seeing you next time on our next episode of Vocation Mode.